Hello and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod. I'm Ryan Eichten and with me today is Travis Singleton. Travis, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Awesome. Yeah, Travis, tell our audience a little bit about yourself, what you do in the Wolves universe.
Uh, got out here 2022. Been a part of the Wolves universe, so it's been pretty good. It's been special to watch Anthony Edwards grow, and especially Nas Reed as well, since we're on two words.
Mm-hmm.
It's been real special, man. Started in 2010 covering the Celtics, then went from there to OKC, covered the Thunder. Went to Houston for a little stint and then made my way out to Minnesota, but been just covering teams and just continuing to write and give the fans what they really want, some behind the scenes, but at the same time give them something they can read and look forward to, just like yourself.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot of people know you as Sneaker Reporter.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah. You got sneakerreporter.com, Sneaker Reporter. It's pretty cool though, because it's like it's like a double entendre type of thing.
mhm.
Whereas like people think I'm just gonna talk about sneakers, but it's like I really don't. But it's like if you want to, we can do that. But I just try to make sure that I stand out in the locker rooms and that's kind of how I got the Sneaker Reporter thing going.
There you go. Awesome. Well, we'll just hop right into it. The Timberwolves are in a bit of a mess. To quote No Country from Old Men, it's if it's not a mess, it'll do until it gets here. It's a to steal a bit from Aaron Gleeman there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Wolves have lost 3 in a row. The first of which was a 1-point loss to Miami, where they had countless mistakes, both coaching wise and mental down the stretch. Tilo and I
Hmm.
talked about that on Monday. And then on Tuesday and Wednesday, they lost a back-to-back both in Portland. And Portland, at least before winning these 2 games, was down at the bottom of the West standings. This
Yeah.
early in the season, a 2-game win streak will get you out of the bottom of the barrel. But
Hmm.
yeah, main takeaways from this brutal 3-game stretch, really, but the last 2 in Portland.
We know what happened with Miami. That
Mm-hmm.
was just like a coaching blunder at the end, and a couple of mental errors that Timberwolves never really make. Defensively they've been really, really well and really good since I've been in Minnesota for sure. But
Yeah.
it's rare that you see that type of breakdown at the end. But then you go to Portland where you're like, okay, we get a chance to redeem ourselves. Everybody's like, all right, we got Portland, we got some get right games. And then all of a sudden, Portland was like, "Hold on, this isn't the Portland of last week.
Yeah.
This is a new team." So it was just interesting though because you're playing against Portland, but they're plugging in players, they're taking out players, they're plugging players. So it's like you're game planning for players that like a Aiton and different players like this. But then all of a sudden you got Banton going crazy, and you got
Yeah.
all these other guys that are making these shots. And I honestly think it comes down to game planning and maybe not prepping, being prepared as much as they usually are,
Yeah.
because but the way that they tinker their lineups up a lot for Portland. But also you got to make sure you come with energy, and that was one of the biggest takeaways for me.
Yeah.
I think that every loose ball, every offensive rebound, every tip pass that they're doing deflections and different things like that, and I felt like Portland was like really on top of that when it came to the energy, and they played off the crowd, and Portland was playing like, hey, this is a this is an
Mm-hmm.
NBA Cup game, like this is what I'm saying. We're playing the in tournament, in season tournament, so. I think it was one of those, okay, this is a wake up call for us, but by the time I think it was a little bit too late. Last night, obviously, they played really, really close down the stretch and everything, but that first game was kind of like, oh, wait a minute,
Yeah.
so yeah, but for me, I think it's energy. They were crashing the boards. They were getting the offensive rebounds. They were beating us to the hustle plays. Those are the little things that the Timberwolves usually beat other teams in. So it was kind of like we got a dose, a taste of their own medicine right there when it came to that, and a lot of defensive breakdowns, on
Mm-hmm.
switches. And a lot. Let's be honest too. A lot of Portland Trailblazer players were making some shots that they usually don't make. So
Yeah.
a little bit of that too. So
Yeah. At least with the shot making, the first game more so for Portland,
yeah, for the first game for
they had
sure.
some they had some crazy shots. The second game they shot 36% from three. So not as crazy, but yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with you on the lack of energy and like the focus and the attention to detail. I'm usually really hesitant to like blame lack of energy just because like it a winning team never looks like they're lazy and a losing team
Mhm.
always looks like they're lazy. So I think that's like
Mhm.
often that's like cheap analysis, but in this case I don't know how else to put it because there's just plays that are missed. There's rebounds, 50-50 balls like they aren't getting to. And I shared a clip
Yeah.
on Blue Sky and the other place where uh, Jaden gets a steal, kicks back to Nikhil for a wide open three, and he misses it short, and the rebound like bounces nearly out to full court
Yeah.
before Jeremy Grant just grabs it. And I'm
That's
watching the
great.
play, and Ant and Julius just don't move. If they had
Yeah.
simply even like jogged down the court, they like one of them likely gets the offensive rebound, but they just didn't move, and that's the type of stuff that's just so frustrating. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I wouldn't say Ant always does this, but he's certainly very inconsistent about showing up for lesser opponents. And it felt like earlier in the year he had kind of done away with that a little bit. The games against
Mhm.
Toronto and Charlotte, and there's one more where he just earlier the first game against Portland where
First
he just
game.
came
Yeah.
out, yeah, and they had the energy and they did that. And then even in Chicago, I was out there in Chicago and he kind of said like, I don't know why we don't have the defensive intensity in the first half. I don't know
Yeah.
why we're doing these things. And then the next game, they did come out with that intensity, and I just it's more than a little bit frustrating, but it's just one of those things with Anthony Edwards that I'm trying to wrap my head around, where it's it it's a clear pattern at this point where they don't
Yeah.
show effort or deep or whatever you want to call it, and Ant says the right things, and it's getting to the point where it's like, yeah, you're not saying anything wrong, but you got to kind of put your play where your mouth is at this point.
Nah, I totally agree. I think the good thing about this is it's still early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about this game 67 or,
Yeah.
72 or something like that when they're about to try to go for that playoff push. I think they're still trying to find each other as well. And I can even see it too defensively. It's kind of those situations where it's like, oh wait a minute, like Randall's like, are you going? Is he going? Like
Yeah.
they're still trying to figure it out. And that's kind of how I look at the season. We have to give them about a 20 game, 25 game grace where it's like, you guys got to figure this out because of the circumstances with the trade and everything before the season started.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you though. He's saying the right things, and it's more so, all right, you're saying those things. Let's continue to implement them. So
Yeah.
if we continue to do that, I think they'll be on the right path. But I think some of those plays that you're talking about, even the one that you were talking about, I think it was more so confusion. Like, are you gonna go? Am I like, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? It's like who's gonna do what? And I also look at it from the offensive end where it's like these players are like, okay, let's let Julius and Ant go off, but then it's like at the same time they don't know when it's their turn, and they're still
Yeah.
trying to figure it out as a team. So it's gonna hurt these little blunders against these teams that we're supposed to beat by like 15, 20.
Yeah.
But I think it's gonna be growing pains to get where they need to be. And it's fixable. And one of the things that I'm not too worried about is the fact that, Finch is one of the best teachers in the game, and he knows the right buttons to press with the team, with McDaniels, with Ant. He knows how to get them guys kind of going, and this team thrives off their defense, deflections, getting in the passing lanes. That creates their offense, and we
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen any of that
No.
recently. So once we get to that point where we'll be able to see that, then we'll see the full complete game that we're yearning for as reporters and even for the fans.
Yeah, I agree with you like on the trying to find themselves piece, but it's also kind of why these last two performances have been so frustrating because like they could have picked up wins along with finding themselves, and
Yeah,
why like the effort and lack of energy stuff or the focus or whatever is so frustrating because it's like, well, that's the one thing that you should be able to bank on. That's
yeah,
that that's obviously not to do with finding each other, or at least not mostly.
yeah,
And so I mean, I'm not saying anything anyone really disagrees with, but yeah, we can talk about like their point of attack defense is just not has not been there, which is like
yeah.
you said, just such a calling card along with Rudy on the back line. of their
For sure.
defense, and it just hasn't been there. I mean, they're net rating ninth in defense, which isn't terrible. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
it's not
certainly
terrible.
Wolves teams of the past where we would hoot and holler for ninth, but
Yeah.
if this team wants to go where they want to go, it's got to be top five. It doesn't necessarily have to
Yeah.
be. I mean, their offense is almost certainly going to be better than it was last year. They got to be top five. I
Yeah.
mean, if it sticks around ninth, they're gonna be looking at like a play-in tournament 6-5-6 seed.
Yeah.
But
That's one thing. I mean, I don't
yeah,
really panic. We got defensive player of the year caliber players with McDaniels, with Rudy, Ants trying to step it up as a two-way player. It's all about like I said, it's all about finding yourself and getting comfortable within the new scheme because obviously adding new pieces to it. Dante's in there, you're adding Julius. You got to see how they're gonna be playing as well. So ninth, I'm actually impressed with ninth right now for what it
yeah,
is right now. So I'm playing that wait and see game, but I also know that this team was built on defense. So if anything, their defense is going to create more offense, but also the defense is going to create opportunities for them to get more wins down the stretch. And the way that they played last year, we need to see that again. Near the end, we need to see that again. And when we do see that, when everything clicks, I think we'll be at the right stride that they need to be at. And I think we're talking about a 3-game losing streak right now, but they can rattle off 5 or 6 in a row, and then we're not
mm-hmm.
having this conversation right now. So it's all about just trying to figure it out and seeing how they scheme. But I believe the way that McDaniels plays on the perimeter, that will that's supposed to set the tone for when Rudy's back there
Yeah,
because a lot of the times when they need that extra help, Randall and these other guys are still trying to figure it out with the spacing
mm-hmm.
and where they need to be at. When who's calling what? Hey, who has my help? Who has it back cuts? They're trying to figure it all out. And you can kind of tell even with Portland last night and the other night, Rudy's getting caught where, you know, they got people at the rim that are like Jeremy Grant's getting an offensive rebound because he's coming over too late
Mm-hmm.
and then they're getting easy putbacks. It's more so just trying to figure out those small little details that I think they will figure out. But right now, it just looks like they just mixed in there and they look like knife.
Yeah, I agree. I think like looking at like we'll go over like all the things that are going wrong with this team, but like deciding which of these are like fundamental problems with the team that need to be addressed like at the root level or like with a trade or something. And then there's issues that are just bad right now and probably hopefully won't continue. I think the lack of energy stuff falls into that category. And I
Yeah,
think the point of attack defense and Jaden not playing as well as we'd like to see or Ant not defending like we'd like to see, I don't think those are like institutional problems. I think those will get better as the year goes on. Um,
yeah,
and they just have to.
yeah.
But
If this
one,
team is going to do what we want them to, what we expect them to do, they those two are definitely the head of the snake when it comes to because they're the young legs. Let's be honest,
yep,
so they got to make sure they set the tone.
exactly. One of the things that I do think is kind of I don't know if it's a fundamental flaw or something that's probably going to persist the rest of the year is their defense with Rudy off the court has been pretty brutal, specifically with Nas at center. And
Mm.
it's not even to put down Nas because he's been playing. I mean,
He's lights
he's
out right now
yeah,
offensively.
but like he's almost played more small forward than he has center in
Yeah.
like last year when they had Cat. So
Hmm.
he's not a center anymore. And
Yeah.
so when they have him out there by himself, he's not that type of player anymore. And that's fine. He's slim. He's a power forward. He's a very,
Yeah.
very good power forward. And the defense has been good to great with him sharing the court with Rudy. I just don't know. He's getting blown by, and he's not a rim protector, and that's fine. He's obviously the sixth man of the year, but I just don't know what they're going to do at center because I think another discussion that's been about like trying to find more minutes for Minot and
Yeah.
and Dillingham. Well, if they're bringing in a backup center, like there goes another 9 minutes. So
Yeah.
I don't
I
know how
mean, do
they.
you? No, I was gonna say, do you give Luca some time and have
That's
him
not
play with Luca?
that's not solving the defense though.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out. Do you try to put more length down there to help out? Instead of running into a Dillingham, you're running into Garza at least if there's somebody else, to try to help out. I mean, you got to figure something out.
Hmm.
From I definitely see what you're talking about. I mean, he's not a rim protector like that. He's a finesse player, and obviously he's the sixth man of the year. But I mean, defensively he can hold his own. But when it comes to being oversized, like that's the tough challenge for him. When you have somebody that's really big and brolic, when Rudy's trying to get his minutes, and I understand what you're saying. It's one of those where on the offensive end he's the mismatch because they
Hmm.
can't guard him. But then on the opposite side, they're
Yeah.
going down low, so it's kind of like,
Yeah. I mean, that would basically be what Luka Garza would be able to give him. I mean, there's a thought that's like, well, we're not going to be able to defend with whoever we put out here in this lineup. Might as well just screw it. Like, let's try to get our best offense. Like, we're going to lose at a 48-minute pace of 140 to 141, but like, well, maybe we can. I don't know. It's not a terrible idea, but I
yeah,
think ultimately, big picture, like if we're talking about issues and like the best answer you got is Luka Garza, we're in a tough spot, unfortunately.
yeah. I mean, do you feel like they should have to, try to bring in somebody else?
I to me, just like with the cap situation and their pick situation, I think this is your group. You
Okay.
this is your eight plus Ingles, Minot, and Dillingham. Those are
Yeah.
your guys. I mean, they I guess they could throw a second at someone and grab a Bonte Morris level player like they did last year, but
Yeah.
ultimately in the playoffs, that person is just not going to play because like
Yeah.
what Minot is getting at most 8 minutes in a regular rotation that includes
Yeah.
Mike. Like I just don't think they're going to have minutes for like that person. I mean, it'd
Yeah.
still be like a valuable piece, especially like on a game Brody misses. I think they
Hmm.
could really use that type of person, but I just think they got to figure it out. And maybe I don't think starting Nas instead of Randall fixes all that much. But what you could do is make it more of the concerted effort where Randall's playing with the bench units and Nas plays as many minutes next to Rudy as he can.
Yeah, yeah, I think that honestly that sounds really good right there because I mean we know Nas and Rudy they bounce off each other perfectly, and some of the stuff that I've seen, some of his best games have been next to Rudy, so I honestly like that, and it's crazy because I see a lot more teams do that where they have like they'll take one of their stars, and lower their minutes with the starting rotation, but then they'll
Hmm.
bump it up with the second unit. And it's interesting because Coach Finch doesn't do that, but I would like to see that sometimes. Because especially
Yeah.
when that second unit is trying to find themselves offensively or something, it would be cool to have like an ant get a couple of minutes with that second unit to kind of get them going a little bit, and different things like that. It's still early. They're still gonna try things.
Yeah.
Like you said, we still got to figure this out. So but I would love to see maybe even some Rudy with that second unit. You never know, So
Yeah.
it's just kind of finding that perfect nucleus where you can have, you know, you're not being exploited. Sort of like what Golden State does with Steph.
Hmm.
It's like they know how to find that perfect mix of players that he can just run around and do his thing.
Yeah.
And we need to find that perfect match for Nas where he's not overexerting himself on the defensive end, but he's still lethal on the offensive end.
Yeah. You touch on Rudy with the second or with the bench unit. When
Yeah.
Mike was playing well, I think that's what they did a lot, where they would run Rudy Mike pick and rolls with the bench units with Nikhil or whoever else on spacing out. And I
Hmm.
like with Mike just not playing well right now, or just straight up missing the last game. They just don't
Yeah.
have like that option, and they don't
Yeah.
have. I mean, Ant has done a very good job, especially before these past three games of like the numbers on the Ant Rudy pick and roll are way up, especially
For
because like
sure.
he talked about this, like they're going under on screens and he's just firing threes and he's making them at like 5 a game at 40%. So like
Yeah.
I think that works, but it was a good. Mike and Rudy were such a good pairing. Every time they needed a bucket, they would go to that empty side Rudy pick and roll, and it
Yeah.
would almost always get a bucket. And so like that's one of the other things. Like, is Mike gonna rebound? Is Mike gonna is this the Mike Conley we're getting this season, or are we gonna get closer to 90% of what he was last year?
I think I think the Mike Conley we're getting this year is going to be the Mike Conley that they coast during the year, and then get him ready for the postseason. I that's
Hmm.
just how I'm looking at it. I think he's going to play his minutes, but then I think he's also going to have a reserved type of role where he's not playing the full extent. Because remember last year he's playing heavy minutes.
Yeah.
I think this year, I think they're just trying to, have him out there, set the tone for the team, and then be that person that could just create. But then if you can take him out for some minutes to give him a breather, take him out. I think last year he was getting overexerted because we really needed him every single moment. We're like, oh, but now with Dante kind of gives him, some relief. Because when he comes in, that second unit, everything, and they bring Dante in with the starters too. So I think Mike's gonna be that type of player. Like I said, they coast through the season. He's gonna get his minutes, but it's not gonna be heavy. But then when playoff time comes, when we're like, okay, we need the high IQ player that's going to make the right plays, make sure we're not turning the ball over. That's kind of where I think Mike's going to get back to the heavy minutes.
Yeah, I agree. I
You
don't
know?
think they're going to play him 30 plus minutes very often
Yeah, I
this
don't see
regular
that
season.
happening. Yeah, I
Um,
definitely don't see that happening.
yeah, and I wonder how
25,
much.
25 to 30 probably.
Yeah, I wonder how much his wrist is really bothering him, at least as it comes to his jump shot. Um, because he just hasn't been able to make open looks or really anything so far this season. So I wonder if that
Yeah.
is either an issue that uh, holds him back all year, or if it's just something that over the next week or two he can get straightened out and get his jump shot. Because I mean, ultimately, if he's gonna shoot 30% from three, then it's just they're gonna have a hard time finding minutes for him. But if he's back
Yeah.
to the high 30s, 40% like he was last year and really most of his career, then even if he's not quite what he was last year, they'll find minutes for him as a spacer and a smart defender.
Yeah, for sure. I do remember talking to him about it. He said that, it's something he's just gonna have to play through, and at the end of the day, I mean, if you're playing through it, one thing I love about Mike is he affects the game way more than the shooting. When
Mm-hmm.
it comes to playmaking ability, making sure the ball is not turned over, he's doing all the proper things that we need, and he's making the high IQ plays. And I think his leadership on the court maximizes way past his jumper because simple example was when he went over to, Jaden McDaniels the other night, just trying to calm him down. Hey, look, we need you. That type of stuff is something that the Timberwolves haven't had in years. So the fact
Yeah.
that we have this player now, you got to kind of look at the things that he does, all the positive things that he does besides the shooting. If his shooting is the only thing that's the problem, I think shooters always go through those little slumps and then they come back.
Yep.
So if that's the case with him, hopefully, like you said, hopefully it's not lingering too bad to the point that this is an ongoing thing where we don't see the old Mike. But if this is the Mike that we do get, I know that the positives way outweigh the bad for sure moving
Mm-hmm.
forward, especially with his tutelage with Rob and just being around Dante and helping those guys because when's the last time the Timberwolves have really had a vet that can actually be in the trenches and still make good plays and still actually be out there with the guys and at the same time teaching them. I can't. I've only been out here for what 3 years now, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. But the one that comes to mind for me is Kevin Garnett when Cat and
Yep.
all those guys were there.
Yep. That's a good point. I mean, their last veteran point guard, kind of before D'Lo and before Mike, was Jeff Teague, and he he
Oh yeah,
he had
we
another
heard
fun
about Jeff
podcast.
T.
Yeah,
Oh
he had another
yes,
fun podcast clip where he's just like, "Yeah, I didn't want to go to Minnesota, and Minnesota didn't want me," which
yeah,
he's been. It's self-aware, which Jeff Teague is very self-aware because Ricky Rubio was obviously a fan favorite, and he recognized that Tibbs sent Rubio packing for Jeff Teague, and that the fans were predisposed to not
yeah,
necessarily like Jeff Teague, but yeah, Jeff Teague is not the role model necessarily that Mike Conley is as a on-court basketball player.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I don't. I mean, the Wolves don't have much of a history of anything that's not Kevin Garnett related. So,
So this is a step in the right direction.
mhm,
So
absolutely. Well, one thing that it always sounds lame to just blame shot variance on a loss because you're gonna have good shooting nights, you're gonna have bad shooting nights, but
yeah,
the last three losses have come each with crazy shot variance nights. The Wolves shot
mhm,
from three, 13 to 45 against the Heat. If they make one of those, 14 of 45, they win that game.
for
Portland shot
sure.
18 of 32 from three in the first loss. That's
Ridiculous.
that's ridiculous. So I mean, part of it is like with that especially, they had plenty of open looks too.
Yeah.
It wasn't just random luck, but like there's one at the end of the quarter, Delano Banton just
Yeah.
turning into Steph Curry. And then
Yeah.
last night was their worst shooting performance in a while. I
Yeah.
kind of looked it up. They haven't under 40% field goal percentage is crazy. They were
Yeah.
39.4% from the field and 7 of 39 from threes, and just the number of just like I mean of those 39 threes, 35, 36 were open, were good looks, and they just couldn't get them to fall at all. Pull up the numbers. Ant was 0 of 9. Might not miss one. Dante 0 of 6. Like they just no one.
Yeah.
Nas 2 of 8. Like that's the only person that shot well was Nikhil, and even he I talked about earlier missed a wide open one. So like
Yeah.
at it like I'm that game was terrible. They both were. But ultimately there's a little bit of part of me that just goes, but also they could have won these two games if they just shoot like not just not even good, just bad instead of
Yeah.
horrible.
Yeah. I mean, those the numbers you rattled off are really. I mean, the first Portland game. I mean, some of the shots they were making, even Ant was turning around like, really, like
Mm-hmm.
really, you really about to do this? Like, so. And some of those shots were like spot on contested that they were just hitting. I don't know
Yeah.
what it was. I don't. Obviously, they were at home. First in season tournament game. They had the crowd rocking, but sometimes you gotta tip your hat off to teams that just make it. When I played basketball and I saw teams that my team was supposed to blow out by 25 points, I'm looking at them like, how are we down by 25?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just pure basketball. Sometimes it's hustle. You get out hustled. You people are making shots that you didn't think they could make.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened with the Timberwolves. I mean, they had their hands up, but sometimes, like you said, sometimes they caught them on those breakdowns and those mishaps where they were open. I saw about what 4 or 5 threes that were wide open where they made the extra pass and nobody was there. So that could also come from fatigue too, from being out hustled. So a lot of that comes back to that. But these numbers, I mean, those numbers are ridiculous, though. I mean,
Yeah.
and like you said about the Miami game, I mean, they make one more three, then they win that game. So I'm just curious to see, if we're gonna see if this 3-point shooting is gonna continue, or are we gonna start to see the Timberwolves of last year where they went downhill a little bit more and was able to really punish people at the rim and get to the line a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, it's a start to the new season. We're seeing a lot more threes from Ant, obviously at a high clip. I'm not mad at the threes he's taking because, I mean, technically with his step back that he's added to his game, he's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more so is he gonna make or miss it? So I'm just curious to see because with that type of shooting, it's like, do you go back to the old way now, or do we continue to keep shooting and we're just like, hey, this is a
Yeah.
little mini slump we'll get out of?
Yeah.
So
I agree. I don't. To me, I don't think like it. Looking at poor percentages from threes and then shifting your volume, I don't think is the right way to go. If you believe you're taking good shots, keep shooting them.
yeah,
Maybe that leads to you losing some games you should win, like against Portland. But ultimately, like it's gonna swing back, and you're gonna beat teams that maybe you shouldn't beat. So I
yeah,
to me, whatever. If this is the shot diet they feel is best, keep doing it.
yeah,
And if you honestly feel like you're shooting too many threes, then then switch it up. But I don't use the small sample sizes of one game or two games or even a week
yeah,
to like determine what should be best.
for sure. I totally agree with you. That's why I was saying, like, for me, I feel like 20-25 games is we're gonna figure out and see exactly what this team is. You still can't put your finger on them right now. They're still learning on a daily. That's why I was able to ask Ant the other day, like, "Hey, how comfortable are you getting in this offense with Julius? Like, because it's very important. Like, y'all two need to
Mm-hmm.
be in sync if this ship is gonna go all the way to the championship, like you guys say it should. So I'm just curious to see, you know, how the next 10 games are gonna go. and I'm happy that they're going through a little skid like this, anyways, for morale and kind of like a chemistry boost. Right? It's like, okay, people are counting us out now. Let's prove them wrong. Let's see how they come
Mm-hmm.
back from this skid, because I truly think these two games they probably just looked at it like, oh, Portland, all right, yeah, we're good, we got this. And sometimes you do that when you overlook your opponent. So they Chauncey Billups had them coached up and ready to go, and Portland got to tip your hat to Portland. They made some shots that I couldn't even believe. So, it happens. It's the league.
Yeah. And the biggest thing I think the Wolves, since they traded for Gobert, they have done an amazing job of when it seems like they are having hit the bottom of the barrel, they pull out wins that people don't expect. I think back to 2 years ago, they also lost back-to-back games in Portland. They had
Mhm.
that one, the true bottom of the barrel. They lost on New Year's Eve. They lost to Detroit. If you remember that
Yeah,
one,
the
that was
Detroit. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
that was terrible. And they responded by making the playoffs, which there was plenty of time during that season. I just remember being so scared that they were going to give their first round pick to Utah. Well, they were going to do that anyway, but like that it was going to be a lottery pick and it was going to hit and be Wemby. I was like, just please make the playoffs so it has a zero chance of turning into Wembanyama, because
Yeah.
it was just like we'll never hear the end of that. But
Yeah.
they responded, and the season didn't end well, but they had good games and they made the playoffs, which was at least the minimum they had to reach. And
Yeah.
last year, the season looked over after Game 5 in Denver. I don't think there was many people that believed
Mm.
that they could win, and they responded by beating them by 50 and playing the chicken dance in their face. And then they, as everyone knows, came back by 20 against Denver in 7. So
Yeah.
as bad as it looks, and don't want to underscore how bad it is, and it likely will cost them a seed. Like wherever they finish at the end of the year, I'm very confident that we'll look back at these two games and be like, let's say they finish 3 again. We'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're probably the 2 seed if they win even one of those games in Portland, because like the quiet thing is these are division games, which usually just means nothing, but for tiebreakers, that's the first tiebreaker with the division game. So if you want to
Yeah.
stay, they beat Denver once, but like say you're tied with, you split the rest, like you're 2-2 against them, you're probably not going to have the next tiebreaker because Denver's probably going to beat Portland. So
Yeah.
it's costly in terms of that, but like we've said, they've got so much time. Like think
Yeah.
back
There's a
to
lot of
where
time.
think back to where they were November last year. They were just kicking butt and beating everyone, and by December, January, February, they're still playing fine. But like there was, oh, we're worried about this, we're worried about that. Like
Yeah.
it's such a long season that, for better or for worse, you can't take too much out of even a string of games.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a lot of time. Crazy thing is, a lot of people need to understand too. Like Ant just played in the Olympics too, So it's like he's in rare form as far as how he's playing. But I also
Mm-hmm.
feel like these guys got to continue to, like I said, gel together. And then I feel like this is one of those. I think this is actually one of those years where they're like, I really just want to get back to the playoffs, because we were right there. And I think sometimes players get caught up in, man, I just want to get to the finish line. Let's get to the playoffs so I can really go off. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
these little 2 games right here with Portland that they just lost. Those are the games that you really need to capitalize on if you want to make sure you have home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yep.
So these are going to be growing pains, but I think Finch is going to get them right, and they should be back on track. I mean, there's a couple of good games coming up that they're gonna be tested, but like you hit it on the head. I mean, these are those type of games where they bounce back and we're like, all right, how'd they win this? How'd they beat Sacramento by 20? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so it's one of those where anything can happen, but it's so early, and we're not talking about the same team as last year. If we
Yep.
were talking about if we had the same exact situation, same exact record with Cat inserted
Mm-hmm.
instead, it's a different conversation. Because now it's like, all right, what happened to last year and what you guys did? This year, it's all about implementing the new guys in and making sure that everybody's playing the right way.
Yeah, for sure. We can talk about that a little bit. How much do you think some of these struggles? I think we both agree that like the trade is affecting them not because their team is better or worse necessarily, but that just because they made a trade right before training camp and they got new guys in and it's taking them time to
Yeah,
gel. But do you think
yeah.
that like is there specific like rotation thing? Like what do you think they're missing from Cat? Like would they still be 6-6? I kind of still believe they'd be 6-6 or 7-5. We'd still be good, even if they didn't
Yeah.
make the trade. We'd be completing the same stuff. Like most of what to me is causing them to struggle right now is not due to like the difference between Julius and Cat.
I agree. I mean, right now I think it's just defensively.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna put it on something, it's gonna be the defensive end, and I don't even think Cat. Obviously, Cat. That's the beauty about the Cat situation, right? Last year, Cat knew how to play off of Rudy, knew how to play off of McDaniels, and he already knew because he was
Mm-hmm.
implemented in the system already. And he had to buy in defensively. I think what we're doing now is with Randall and Dante, we're trying to make sure that they understand what the schemes are and the different sets are that they're trying to implement as well on the defensive end. So if you look at it from this year, we probably would have a little bit better record to start off with Cat. But when you're growing and you're trying to learn things on the fly, I think where we're at right now, I'm still okay with that. But I think, like I said, I think it's a defensive thing. And once Rudy and all these guys get the trust factor where, okay, I'm up here and I know they got my back, defensively, where they know they have help, and when they know when
Mm-hmm.
they're switching and somebody's gonna be right there to help them. I think those are the things that you have to learn and continue to grow because that's communication. And if you don't have that type of communication, then you're gonna have some mess ups where there's gonna be a wide open three on a kick out. And you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna be sitting there like, okay, here we go. So defensively, I think we'll still get it together. You want them to be top five. I think at the end of the year they should be back to be top five.
Mm-hmm.
When you have Rudy and you have McDaniels, and I think even with the emergence of with Ant trying to be a better two-way player, and then the way that I love Dante DiVincenzo's on ball defense as well. Like one on one, like I'm good with him defensively. The way
Yeah.
he moves, all the above. I think he's gonna really bring it to the table, and then with Randall, he's just a bully. He's like a Zion. Like you can't move him.
Yeah.
So if you try to go one on one with him, you're just gonna probably kick it out. So
Yeah.
I like what they're doing right now. It's gonna continue to have some growing pains. But once that defense starts clicking and we get back to that defense that we saw last year where it was flying everywhere, I think this team will be right where we need them to be. But right now I think the biggest difference with the trade as well is it's the defensive end right now because
Yeah.
last year people already knew their roles last year, knew where they needed to be, and this year it's like we're inserting two players in there that are huge important players, but they also need to know where they need to be and who needs to help where, and it's about communication, but defense is all about trust too. I gotta trust that my teammate's gonna make the right play or be on the right assignment as well.
Yeah. I don't think they're doing a good job trusting each other on the defensive end because I've seen a lot of like over helping where
Hmm.
like a defender has a half step on someone. And sure, like you gotta like there's a certain amount of help and like it's the right idea to like someone's getting beat, you gotta rotate over and but there's been too many times where like I've watched replay the game and be like, you didn't need to help there. You didn't
Yeah,
or or you did need to help there, but you took one too many steps toward that play and you were late recovering back to your person. Like
yeah.
I just think
I
they need
think.
to they talked
Oh,
about
go
in
ahead. Go ahead.
Chicago that if you remember Chicago hit a bunch of threes in the first half and the Wolves were able to like settle that down. They talked about like they just stopped helping. They stopped helping and they were just playing one-on-one defense. And I think
Yeah,
I mean obviously there's you got to help some. You can't just let people waltz to the rim, but like especially with Rudy already there, like I think they got to play a little bit less help defense and just like man up and that's going to take them improving whatever is going on with their point of attack defense because if you're
yeah.
playing one-on-one and guys are blown by you, it's just going to be a layup line.
Not for sure. I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing this year compared to last year so far is they're gambling a lot more, and
Yeah.
that comes from not having that cohesiveness together. Like, okay, I know I got the help. Instead, I'm seeing Ant trying to make the play. It's like you can relax on defense and stay in front of your man, but then sometimes he's gambling because he's trying to just get to the ball and make a play. Sometimes you gotta let the play develop and then let the defense develop too. And I think, like I said, they're gambling a lot more this year that I've seen in the past. And then when they're gambling, then all of a sudden now you got a 2-on-1 situation where somebody's going up with Rudy and dumping it to the big man, and then he's just laying it in or dunking it. So it's gonna take some time. Like I said, it's gonna take some time. I mean, we will see that defense again, and I know
Mhm.
it's gonna come. It's just more so that we're going through the growing pains right now. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. I've noticed that too, where a couple plays, weirdly, like with Nikhil, like he's just like pressed up on his guy, and naturally, like the guy goes around him, and the whole kind of defensive scheme breaks down. Right,
Yeah.
starting with that first action. It's not just Nikhil; it's other people too.
Oh,
And
for sure, for sure.
I wonder if early in the year they were giving up a ton of paint points. So I wonder if like they like switch something and they're like, no, we need to take away the paint points at the sacrifice of a little bit more threes, and now maybe we need to shift back to kind of letting not like sacrificing some paint defense for some perimeter defense.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I feel like I'd rather somebody shooting than getting the easy twos, getting the easy
Mm-hmm.
bucket or getting the and one in the paint. So if you got to live with a contested jumper, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
And I trust Ant, Nikhil, Jaden, even Dante. If they're defending on a one-on-one on the island, I believe they're gonna make the right play, and I could live with that.
yeah, that's a big thing to me when people talk about like the increased in 3-point shooting, and that's not something like with the game or whatever, and they blame the offense. And it's like I don't think it's as much the offense as it is the defense, because the reason why the threes are open is because the defense can't take everything away. So they take
Hmm.
the most efficient shot away, and people are like, "Oh, well, that's a 3-point shot." No, it's a
Yeah,
layup. It's a dunk.
yeah,
They're taking the
yeah,
paint points away, and you got to give up something, and it's the threes.
yeah.
So I like if you want more. I don't know what I don't care what the shot diet is. That's not why I watch basketball personally. But like if you want
Yeah,
if you want more, you gotta let people get. You gotta find a rule or whatever that lets people get dunks and layups. Like just straight up restricting the threes isn't really gonna do much.
yeah. I honestly, I mean, if we're playing that Warriors game where it's we'll give you the two because we're gonna hit the three,
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of live with that, and that's kind of what it looks like right now because Timberwolves are shooting the three at a high clip. So they're like, okay, if that team's missing, then we're gonna come back and bounce back with the three, But the thing is, they got to find that defensive identity, and when they find that,
Yeah.
then if they miss a three, they know on the back end that on the opposite side they're gonna get the ball right back and they can hit another one. And that's what they got to get back to because that's when we were putting our foot on. Timberwolves were putting their foot on everybody's
Mm-hmm.
neck when they got that defensive groove going. I remember last year, I forgot who we were playing, but they were moving so much on the defensive end. They were swarming and nobody was. It was like 3 24-second shot clock in a row.
Yeah.
And that's the defense that everybody wants to see them get back to, where everybody's moving their feet, hustling on every play, making the right read, communicating, and that will come. It comes with time, and like we've been saying this whole time, it's more so got to integrate the new guys in there and get it going. But their defense creates their offense. So if
Yep.
their offense is stagnant, when they get the ball on the defensive end, the fast break and transition points are where that's their money. So they haven't been able to get to that right now because they're gambling and missing reads, and people are, they're getting that extra passing where we're not getting to them right away and it's not contested. So if they work on
Mm-hmm.
those little small things, which I think they will,
Yeah.
we should see a lot better, result. We definitely won't see what we saw in Portland these last couple of nights if they do that.
Yeah. If they pull that, if they like lose to Sacramento and they're down early to Phoenix, the Target Center's not gonna be very happy with them. But yeah, I think my big picture thing is like we can talk about the strategy of they're missing this player, they need to have this defensive strategy, whatever. But like we're not at the point, even to me, at least after these couple in Portland, they just need to play better. Like
Yeah,
you can't start breaking down coverages and breaking down who can do what until you just start playing hard, until you start playing better, until you start
yeah,
making shots. And
yeah,
so, unfortunately, 16 games into the season, or 16, 12 games into the season,
yeah,
you'd like to be further than that, but ultimately they're not there yet. And it's such lame. lame analysis, but it is what it is. They just gotta go out there and do it. And
That's it.
once they do that, then we can talk about what backup center we want to trade for.
Yeah. Nah, that sounds good to me. Like I said, it's gonna take some time, and we'll get it going. I honestly, I think constructed the way this team is, when they get it clicking, on all cylinders, both sides of the ball, I think we'll be right back in the top three mix. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's where we'll be at, and I think they'll hit the ground running in the playoffs. I
Yeah.
think Ant got that taste of how far he can go, and I think he's gonna take it to that next level, and that's what I'm expecting. I'm honestly expecting an MVP season from him, like MVP type numbers. That's what I'm expecting from him.
Yep.
So
And my retort to that would be these last two in Portland are the exact type of games that I think people think like the MVP is won against the good teams, and obviously it is. But like a lot of it, especially with the numbers, is people
yeah,
load up on these Portland games. Especially
yeah,
Embiid is obviously known for that. But like you load up on these Portland games and or the Charlotte game, what like he was doing the Charlotte and the Chicago's, and so
yep,
that when you have a dud night against a good team, that your stats don't hurt as much because you had scored 40 against whoever. Um,
exactly.
and so they to win that MVP and like the guy that in his age bracket that's probably slightly ahead of him is SGA. The difference, like I think there is like the night in, night out. I'm gonna score 30 every night, and
Yeah,
I think like I'm sure this pod's gonna sound like I'm coming down on Ant, and to a certain extent I am, but like that's the standard he's set for himself, and that's the he's after this cat trade. This is his team. This is his franchise. This is his city, and
yep,
so they just need more from him right now. And it's not to he can still be an MVP caliber player. He could still win it at some point in his career as soon as like next year, but ultimately they're just not quite getting enough from him um defensively really.
yeah. And the one thing I've noticed about Ant just covering him is he beats himself up just as much as
Sure.
everybody else tries to beat him up. And one thing about him is he always bounces back. And he doesn't like losing. He's a competitor. So I'm expecting, especially after last night, I'm expecting him to come out in this Sacramento game and set the tone on both ends. And that just starts with, you want to be the leader, you are the leader. He talked about maturity. We need to see it now. And it's more so, you can talk all you want, but when you don't do it and when you don't back it up, that's when people will start to come after you. And I think one thing about Ant is every time he's talked, he's always backed it up. So
Mm-hmm.
we need to continue to see him do that, because instead of being on the bounce back where I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna come back, you got to be on the attack every single night.
Yep.
Teams are coming after you. We were just in the Western Conference Finals. Teams are looking at
Yeah.
you as a legitimate threat.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have those players like the SGAs who do it night in, night out, especially with Chet out now,
Yep.
he's gonna take it to a whole nother level. So you got to kind of look at it from the standpoint of, with Ant, it's okay, it's my team. But he also said he's trying to make sure that, Randall's comfortable coming in. Hey, we're gonna play
Mm-hmm.
around you. People need to play around Ant.
Yep.
So they got to continue to figure that out. But I think Ant needs to be putting up 20 to 25 shots a night. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if they're good shots, bad shots. I need any shot, because my thing is, I don't want a game where I don't feel like he's being aggressive. And sometimes he can defer a little bit more. And I think that's because he's trying to get Julius and
Mm-hmm.
Dante integrated in the offense as well. And I think he's trying to learn them as well too. I think we'll see a stretch coming up where we're gonna see that MVP ball from him, where it's like, okay, you know what, y'all got to get on my back now, and that's what I want to see from him. Everybody, come on, we're going to follow me. I'm gonna lead us to the promised land, and that's the type of Ant that we need to see. The Ant that's being aggressive, continuing to shoot at a high clip. 40% from three. We need to be able to see that on a nightly basis, and I know that a lot of people say, his maturity is the issue, but my thing is this: if you can hoop, you can hoop.
Mm-hmm.
So my at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that he makes the baskets, makes the right plays, makes the right IQ plays, and continues to continue to grow his game. He's adding that floater now. He's doing. I see him doing that one handed little jump shot, like when he's
Yeah.
in the paint a little bit more now. So we got to continue seeing his growth in his game, and I think that will lead us to where we need to be.
Yep. Exactly. I agree. That's a good segue to looking ahead to their next matchup against Sacramento. I think this is a perfect matchup for Ant. They don't really have anyone to guard him, to be honest. I mean, I don't remember who they put on him. Did they put DeMar on him
They had
last game?
Demar on him, Demar and Monk.
Yeah. So I think Monk. I don't think Monk's gonna play either.
Yeah, so
So they just. I mean, that to me, that's like the. I'm not a big fan of this Sacramento team from a big picture standpoint because of that. They just don't. They don't have any like perimeter defenders that aren't liabilities on offense. So and Sabonis is a fantastic player, phenomenal player, solid defender, but isn't like the true rim protector. I mean, Klingon is darn near Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Wolves made him look like, but Sabonis is not like the true rim protector that Ant has had trouble with. Like Dallas's two guys is like
yeah,
who he struggled with. So I think
yeah,
this is like a perfect matchup for him and for Randall because they don't really have anyone to guard Randall either. Unless they want to put like Sabonis on Randall and then guard Rudy with, I don't even know who would be left to guard.
yeah. I don't even know either. I mean, I mean, I know they're gonna try to probably throw Murray at Ant a little
Yeah,
bit too. That's another matchup that they threw. But like you said, they don't have any matchup for Randall. I mean, Randall, he was going bonkers. So I mean,
mm-hmm.
we just need to be able to see, that type of Randall on a nightly basis.
Yeah,
Where we know what we're getting. I I don't know if you would agree, but I feel like Randall's more so like a 25-5 guy. You
yeah.
agree?
Probably not as many points, but yeah,
I'm
probably more.
well. I'm saying like in that probably in that range. Like I'm looking
Yeah,
at maybe like 16 to 20 points per game, but you're gonna get 5 rebounds, 5 assists.
yeah,
He's a stat sheet stuffer. So he's gonna do what he got to do on that part. But like you said, they don't have. I mean, I don't think they have anybody that can slow down Ant.
yeah.
And I
Keegan
don't even think. Oh, go
Keegan
ahead.
Murray can guard Julius. I forgot about Murray at defensively. So they do have someone to guard Randall, but they haven't had Julius like early in the season. He was doing such a great job like kicking out to shooters and like finding good looks, and I think he's been a little bit too like shot focused the past couple games. So if they can get back to that where
Yeah.
anytime they're doing such a good job, anytime he would have any small forward or guard on him, he was immediately posting up and he was
Yeah.
bully balling that guy for either like a foul, a layup, or an open three. And they kind of gotten
Mm.
away from that. I don't know if it's something Portland or Miami was doing, or if it's just or
That's
just
I mean, that's
yeah,
the biggest takeaway I've gotten from Randall is he knows how to exploit that mismatch right away. Give me the ball, give me the
mm-hmm.
ball. like as soon as he sees that he has a point guard on him, switched on him or something, or he
Yeah,
has a shooting guard or a small forward switched on him, he's going straight to that post. And he's gonna bully them into the paint, and he's gonna probably, like you say, he's gonna probably get fouled, make it, or he's gonna at least find the right play. So they got to get back to that. I think this will be a get right game. For the Timberwolves in Sacramento, I really don't see them not coming out focused. I think they'll come out locked in. You kind of get a rude awakening when you lose to Portland twice.
yep,
And I'm hoping that they took those two losses personal, and like I said, this is kind of what they needed. You need a little skid in the beginning, so you can kind of find yourselves and grow together. So I think Ant will pick them back up. I honestly see him having a big game tomorrow.
yeah. I agree. It's certainly not a game that like I think you said he loves playing in Sacramento. If I remember that right, it's like one of his favorite gyms to shoot in.
Yeah,
He'd probably say that about all 30 arenas, to be honest, knowing
I
him.
mean the
But
way he plays, I would say it about all of them too.
yeah, but yeah, just kind of looking ahead to the Wolves' next schedule. So they
Yeah,
got Friday at Sac, Sunday a matinee. The Wolves have not really played well against on afternoon games, but they got Phoenix
Phoenix, right? Yep.
without Durant, so that Durant would be a huge mismatch for the Wolves again. I mean
Yeah,
Randall is a better matchup than Towns was. Then they got at Toronto and then at your Boston Celtics out there. So
yeah, yep.
they got kind of two teams that they should beat. At least Phoenix without Durant is the team they should beat, in Sacramento, but solid teams. A tanking Toronto team, and then the barometer of all barometers is at Boston, and Ant has certainly not shied away from the Celtics. He had two crazy games against them last year.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be out there in Boston for that game, so I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be an exciting game, but the thing about Ant is, like, the better competition, like, brings the best out in him. Like, remember, even on starting five, like, he was talking trash to the Celtics that whole game.
Yeah.
Bring your ass back to Boston. Go home. Woo, woo, woo. So he was doing all that, and then even when he was in the locker room, he was like, man, I was locking Tatum up. That's just who he is, man. So he has fun with the game. He enjoys the game. And when you play that good at that age, that young, you got to continue to play like that with confidence, and he's playing with that type of confidence. So if he can get a nice little stretch going here, Sacramento, Phoenix, you know what I'm saying? Then they got Toronto and then Boston. I think that could be a setup for a huge game right there.
Yep, and they get a little bit of injury luck here because KD's out. And Portland was missing half the roster, and it didn't matter, so maybe not. Yeah. They got two games against the Clippers. Kawhi won't play in those games, I'm pretty sure, unless he's had an injury update I'm not aware of. So the Wolves have the hardest remaining schedule, at least using like team's current record as their strength. The Wolves have the hardest remaining schedule in the league. So, and I mean, the crazy part about that is it's like the top half of hard schedules are every single West team, and the bottom half of hard schedules are every single East team. So the Wolves are just trying to even it out, right? That's what their Miami loss was, just trying to give trying to give the East some wins. And I do wonder if Jimmy were playing in that game, if Ant's how that would have been different.
Well, I thought we were gonna find out, but we didn't. We didn't get the chance to. So we'll see. It'll happen again.
At least this time it wasn't Jimmy ducking them. He had a legitimate ankle sprain. So
from what I heard, he was gonna play. So
so that's too bad. But it did seem like in the past Jimmy has ducked them, but that is not the case this time. He didn't look like a fun ankle sprain. But
it didn't.
Yeah, that's where we're gonna wrap up. Travis, you got anything else? Anything you want to plug?
Nah, just keep a lookout for, all the stuff, all the content on sneakerreporter.com. Follow me on all social media, Sneaker Reporter, Travis Singleton. Appreciate you for having me on here, Ryan, man. It means a lot. Definitely don't want this to be the last time. So let's continue to keep building on it and, keep updating throughout the year. And I'm just looking forward to these couple of games coming up for the Wolves, and hopefully they can get back on track and get back in the win column.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully this is the low point of the season. We can bring you back on after a big win, and we can celebrate instead of complaining for an hour here.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Awesome. Well, Leo and I will be back early next week, likely on Tuesday morning. Your pods should update with another episode there. So until then, I'm Ryan with Travis and Leo. Thanks for listening.
Good night.